very good evening to you. You're watching Primetime News on News First. I'm Chaturang Hatwarachi. Before we head into the stories in detail, let's first take a look at the headlines.
Japan agrees to donate 6 million AstraZeneca vaccines. Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka informs president. Recall retired nurses for duty based on necessity, a directive from the Prime Minister. 80% of essential workers' vehicles entering Colombo affixed with special permission stickers. Stickers will no longer be issued to vehicles. Social media activist Rajiv Yasiru granted bail. Courts question CID as to how computer crimes charges were filed sans evidence.
On to those stories in detail. Japan has agreed to supply 600,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine to Sri Lanka. The jabs would be administered among those who have received only the first dose of the vaccine.
The President's media division has said that Japan has responded favorably over a request made by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga. Japan had conveyed its response to the President and the Prime Minister through Japanese Ambassador Akira Sugiyama. According to the Prime Minister's media division, Japan has agreed to provide medical equipment to Sri Lanka as well.
Japan
has agreed to provide us the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. The parent company of the vaccine manufacturer had expressed that they have no objection over offering the jab through Japan. This message had been conveyed to the ambassador. We are expecting a favorable response over this. Based on that, we hope that we will be able to provide you with some positive news in the coming weeks.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Institute of Biotechnology and Russia's Gamaleya Research Institute have joined hands to manufacture the Russian Sputnik vaccine. Foreign Relations Minister Dinesh Gunawardena had discussed this matter with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov recently. A flight carrying 1 million doses of the Chinese Sinopharm vaccine arrived at the Bandaranaike International Airport today. The vaccines were part of an order placed by the government. Sri Lanka has received 2 million out of the 3 million Sinopharm vaccines, for which an order had been placed by the State Pharmaceuticals Corporation at a cost of $15 per dose.
Crisis at the WATHUPITIWALA hospital over vaccination.
A tense situation occurred at the WATHUPITIWALA base hospital today over an agreement made to provide the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine to the family members of health workers at the hospital apart from doctors. The situation arose after inoculation had not been carried out as agreed. The health staff alleged hospital authorities had agreed to inoculate their family members with 22 surplus vials of the AstraZeneca vaccine at the hospital. Against such a backdrop, the Ministry of Health had attempted to transport the vaccines out of the hospital yesterday. However, staff members complained authorities had breached the agreement to administer the second dose to their family members this morning pursuant to opposition raised against the move. They also revealed unknown groups were being inoculated with the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine at the WATHUPITIWALA base hospital over the past few days.
They need to balance the vaccines administered secretly. They are collecting all the AstraZeneca vaccines based on an order from the President. They only administered 3 jabs to some of our people from the vial used on me. All the others were outsiders. When I went there, outsiders were being inoculated. I went, sat there and got my second dose. I have the numbers. I want to challenge them to reveal who were administered with the vials.
The hospital staff displayed a stock of vials to the media, which are said to be discarded AstraZeneca vaccines. We were notified that the vaccine cannot be administered. By tomorrow, all staff members, including emergency staff members, will step aside from their tasks. Reports emerged a few days ago of a group from the Western province being administered the AstraZeneca vaccine in Gaul.
There is an issue which has arisen due to poor oversight. How were there more vials of these vaccines? If so, why weren't those administered to the people in the area itself? Be that as it may, administering the jab to people from outside the area is a cause for regret, and as the All Ceylon Medical Officers Association, we condemn it. It should not happen.
අපි ඇත්තටම සමස්ත ලංකා වෛද්‍යධාරී සංගමයේ විදිහට විරෝධය පළ කරනවා. මොකද ඒක නොවිය යුතු දෙයක්. පළවෙනිම දේ තමයි එන්නත්
We were able to inoculate more than the vials which were transported here, since there were extra shots in most of the vials. The Ministry of Health has ordered for those to be returned.
ඉතුරු වෙන්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා. ඒ ඉතුරු වෙන එන්නත් තමයි සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය විසින් මේ වන විට ඒවා ගෙන්වාගෙන තියෙනවා.
Expectant mothers receive vaccines.
The inoculation of expectant mothers with COVID-19 vaccines began today. The Prime Minister's spouse, Shiranti Rajapaksa, was also present during the vaccination drive at the Castle Street Hospital for Women.
An embryo usually develops within the first 3 months. Therefore, based on available data, we have found that there is no issue in administering the vaccines among mothers who are more than 3 months into their pregnancy. Sri Lanka recorded 2,173 new COVID-19 infections today. The Health Ministry's Epidemiology Unit said that the total number of infections in the country has risen to 212,834. 2,168 individuals had recovered from the infection. According to official figures, the total number of recoveries stand at 180,427, while the total tally of deaths stands at 1,843. GMOA's stance on COVID-19 infections and deaths.
Although between 40 to 45 deaths are being confirmed daily, only 1 or 2 deaths are reported for a day. We analyze the data that we have so far. We have observed that the data that is available is outdated. We cannot do anything with it. If we tabulate the data, we can see that around 38 people are dying daily. The highest number of deaths in the Western province are reported in the Kaluthara district. 28% of these deaths were reported while the patients were at home. This figure is for the Kaluthara district. Such deaths in the Colombo district stands at 18%. The situation in the Kaluthara district is serious.
මේ කලතර දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ තියෙන තත්ත්වය ඉතාමත්ම බැරෑරුම් බව මේදී අපිට සඳහන් කළ යුතුයි.
මේ ආයතන මගින් සපයන දත්ත පරීක්ෂා
If we consider the data that has been published, a person who analyzes the data will observe that there is a certain disparity. For example, the number of active patients on the 6th of June had been identified as 36,333. However, when we analyze the data, we can see that the number of active patients had reduced by 5,016 to 31,045. The number of recoveries had been identified as 1,173. What has happened to these patients? If we tabulate the data in a graph, we can observe that the number of infections increases gradually and then shows a massive increase after a few days. There is a difference between 5,000 and 6,000. No one knows what happened to them. We wish to question whether they had left the country.
අපිට දැනගන්න කැමති මේ රෝගීන් රට හැර ගියාද? එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ රෝගීන්ට මං කියන්නේ ආනයන අපනයන ඒ වගේ කටයුත්තට සහභාගී වුණාද? මේ රෝගීන්ට මොකක්ද උනේ කියලා.
Junior hospital staff staged trade union action.
Junior hospital staff refrained from reporting to work, seeking solutions to several issues, including the failure to provide transfers and to confirm their permanent employment. The General Secretary of the Joint Health Workers Union, Venerable Tampitiye Sugathananda Thera, said that the trade union action was staged from 8 a.m. to 12 noon.
We hope that the government will pay attention to this. If we have to resort to other forms of trade union, if the problem is not resolved, we are ready to do that.
However, the trade union action was not conducted at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children, Castle Street Hospital for Women, Maharagama Apeksha Hospital and the Batticaloa and Trincomalee district hospitals. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Government Nurses Association, Venerable Muruthetwe Anandathera, met with the Prime Minister, Health Minister and Health Ministry officials today. According to the Prime Minister's office, several issues faced by nurses were discussed at the meeting.
I think it's better to recall the trained nurses who have retired recently on a contract basis. You can recall them by publishing a notice through the media.
The Prime Minister had provided solutions for several issues that were put forward by Venerable Muruthetwe Anandathera. During this discussion, it was revealed that the proposal to extend the retirement age of nurses up to the age of 63 had been directed to the Cabinet for its approval.
Are permit stickers pasted on vehicles even at present?
Stickers were fixed on around 78,000 vehicles that entered Colombo on Monday. A need did not arise to issue stickers yesterday and today, since 95% of the vehicles that entered Colombo have stickers pasted on them. We will conduct random inspections on vehicles without those stickers.
With that update about the COVID situation in the country, we draw your attention to some more local news. Daily wage earners in the country are experiencing hardships due to the travel restrictions that are in effect. Newsfirst filed this report on such individuals who have been severely affected.
Daily wage earners in Hatton, Dikkoya and Alutgama are skipping meals due to financial constraints at present. Around 75 families have been left helpless due to travel restrictions that are in effect island-wide. Many have lost all modes of income. Porters, blue-collar workers and sanitation workers are among those who are facing the brunt of travel restrictions. Villagers who once used to consume at least a plate of cassava are now utterly helpless.
කණ්ඩතරේ අමාරු රසල් කණ්ඩ විදියක් නැහැ.
පොලියට අරගෙන දැන් පොලියගේ වණ්ඩත් නැතුව කණ්ඩ කෑම නැතුව ෆෑන් අමාරුවෙන් කට්ටි ඉන්නේ.
කියා කරේ උදව් කරන්නේ නැත්නම් බඩු ටිකක් කරේ දෙන්න ඕනේ. මොකුත් නැහැනේ. සල්ලිත් නැහැ බඩුත් නැහැ. අපේ ළමයි මොනවද කන්නේ එනම්.
Families dependent on fishing are also among those badly affected by this crisis. Fishermen who are unable to set out to sea due to the inclement weather have been struck by a double whammy due to the fire on board a vessel that occurred when travel restrictions were in effect. Fishermen lament they are unable to set out to sea or sell their catch.
Several families dependent on fishing do not have meals. I am also unable to sell this fish and earn a living to feed my children.
Only Samurdhi beneficiaries receive the 5,000 rupee allowance. The others should also eat and survive. We request to provide the others with relief.
The farmers in our country who visited the Tambutegam Agrarian Services Centre had to face an unprecedented problem today. Throughout the year, farmers battle multiple challenges to cultivate vegetables and fruits required by the country. The encroachment of wild elephants, the damages caused by pests are among the prominent issues faced by the farmers. Today, they are forced to battle with a fertilizer shortage as well.
Farmers visited the Tambutegam Agrarian Services Centre in anticipation of fertilizer today. Coupons had been distributed among farmers on the 17th of last month, stating that they would be offered fertilizer under certain concessions. But many farmers had to return home empty-handed, although they were notified to collect fertilizer today. Only 40 out of the 100 farmers who visited the Agrarian Services Centre were able to purchase fertilizer. Representatives of farmers groups in the Ippavala division of the Mahaweli H zone expressed their views on the fertilizer shortage.
We didn't ask for free fertilizer. We are asking for the required chemical fertilizer. The Agriculture Ministry had told Parliament that there were sufficient stocks of chemical fertilizer. That is a blatant lie. We are unable to purchase fertilizer. This is a great tragedy. The people have been affected by this. If this continues, eventually we will have to consume grass. We don't have anything to eat. Weed is growing over the crops. When this happens, it will form a cover over the crops.
Farmers in the VACCINATION area in Hambantota have been affected due to the shortage of fertilizer. More than 300 acres of land have been affected due to this reason.
They are making various remarks. This is what we have cultivated for 1.5 months. These crops don't have fertilizer.
Small-scale tea estate owners in the lower Dodambala area in Yatinuara are also facing severe hardships due to the lack of fertilizer.
Over the last 3 years, tea exports have declined by 76%. China is dominating the world market with a share of 85%. China doesn't want Sri Lanka to improve. The transition to organic fertilizer implies a scheme to acquire tea estates in Sri Lanka.
We have provided concessions to paddy farmers. Farmers assume that there is a fertilizer shortage. A farmer who generally obtained 1 bag of fertilizer obtained 2, and a farmer who obtained 2 bags obtained 4. The Agrarian Services Centre must place the order from the relevant companies before issuing them to farmers. This results in a small delay. Therefore, we must not worry about this.
මෙබඳු බරපතල තීන්දුවක් ගන්නට ඉස්සෙල්ලා වගකීම් සහිත ආණ්ඩුවක් හැටියට සිදු කළ යුතුව පවතින්නේ අත්හිටුවීමට පෙර ඉන් ලැබෙන විපාකය මොකක්ද?
Before making such a serious decision, as a responsible government, they must carefully assess the disadvantages of implementing such moves. That is why there are research institutes with research scientists. Other countries are catching up on the global tea market. There is a threat that this will wipe out the existence of the Ceylon tea brand in the world market. Students of grade 8, 9 and 10 are provided practical lessons on the usage of organic fertilizer. Unfortunately, the agriculture minister of our country does not have the knowledge that a school student has. A person with a knowledge of this matter had been serving as the agriculture secretary. He has also resigned.
කුෂිකාරම ඇමතිවරයාට මේ රටේ අධ්‍යාපනය ලබන ළමයෙකුට තියෙන දැනීමවත් නැතිකම මේ රටේ මහ පොළොව පිළිබඳව කියවීමක් තිබිච්ච ලේකම්වරයා විතරයි මේ අමාත්‍යාංශයට මේ දැනුමට හිටියේ ඔහුත් ඉල්ලා අස්සුණා.
මතක ඇති ජනාධිපතිතුමා
You might recall what the President said during the first discussion on organic fertilizer. He said that the cost to import chemical fertilizer is high and that it would cost less to provide organic fertilizer and also provide compensation to farmers for a poor harvest. This clearly indicates the cheaper and expensive option. They cited kidney-related ailments for this latest decision, but those are made-up stories. The government is economically bankrupt. They don't have money. There is a difference between their words and actions.
දැන් දල වශයෙන් ගත්තොත් කුඹුරු අස්වැන්න 120කින්
If the paddy harvest reduces by 20%, around 4 million people will not have food. Minister Bandula Gunawardana told Parliament that they will have to obtain debt or sell what we have. We are wondering whether they are trying to set up a wholesale shop.
කඩයක් දාන්නද ලෑස්ති වෙන්නේ කියලා අපිට ශක්තියක් තියෙනවා.
Sometimes leaders have to make tough decisions. Fortunately, we have one who can make decisions of that nature. I want to tell you that the same way that President Mahinda Rajapaksa was strong and decisive in taking actions as well as taking decisions to deal with terrorism, as well as infrastructure development, as well as economic growth at the time that he was president. Today, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the president, has the same ability to take some tough decisions, to make a change that our country can be a lot more sustainable. We'll have challenges. J.R. Jayawardena, when he was told that the Mahaweli should be compressed, when he said that Mahaweli should be compressed from 30 years to 6 years, many people said that it cannot be done. But he did it. In the same way, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the president, is saying, let's have organic agriculture. Let's ensure that we have sustainable development. Those are tough challenges, like saying, let's have water for all, Let's have 100,000 roads, kilometers to be done. Those are tough challenges, but it needs a solid leadership, and I think we have that. Leaders must not look at the next election only. They must look at the next generation.
Welcome back to the news, keeping you updated about the situation surrounding the Express Pearl ship. The Central Environmental Authority says that the debris washing ashore from the stricken Express Pearl will be collected in a large storage facility. Its chairman S. Amarasinghe has said that the decision had been made in the light of the contents that are washing up on the Sri Lankan shore.
Plastic pellets and debris from the sinking Express Pearl vessel are washing up on the western and southern coasts of Sri Lanka. The debris, which was washed ashore so far, has been stored at a private location in Vattala. The Central Environment Authority told Newsfirst that 823 out of 1,486 containers on the vessel contain polythene and plastic.
Based on the contents that we have collected in bags, we can say that it amounts to the capacity of 41 containers. There are contents from about 10 containers in the sea. We have asked for 10 storage tanks so that we can remove the debris. Although we keep removing the debris, more materials continue to wash ashore. What is the situation at sea?
Although an oil leak from the vessel has not been reported so far, officials say that the situation is being monitored closely.
We cannot confirm whether there is an oil leak. In the event of such an occurrence, we have prepared teams and the required equipment to face it. We were able to minimize the damage caused due to this since we were prepared.
Two foreign companies have to get in touch with us. Representatives of the ITOF and OSR entities have arrived in the country. They are conducting an assessment on the coast and the water surrounding the vessel. We have asked them to provide us the technology required to clear and explore the sea.
What will happen to the containers which have fallen overboard?
The Marine Environment Protection Authority has been vested with the responsibility of retrieving the containers that had fallen overboard and to hand them over to us. I contacted the local agent of the vessel today. They said that the process has begun, but they are yet to receive at least one container. Can a case be filed in a Sri Lankan court for damages caused due to the incident? Even I am a lawyer. Lawyers bring forth several arguments on behalf of their client. It is the court itself which will have to decide on whether it has the jurisdiction to hear this case or not. I don't want to publicly discuss matters that can cause a hindrance to the ongoing legal proceedings. Did the vessel which wreaked havoc in the Sea of Sri Lanka sail to Sri Lankan territorial waters, concealing details of an impending catastrophe? Based on the details unearthed thus far, details of a leak in one of the containers on board the vessel had been known even when the Express Pearl set sail from the Jebel Ali port in Dubai at 3 p.m. on the 10th of May. When the operators had requested to unload the leaking container at the Hazira port in India, Indian authorities had noted that the leak was serious and unloading the questionable container could even cause damage to port property. Therefore, didn't the vessel set sail from the Hazira port around 7 p.m. on the 15th of May, bearing a serious risk? Weren't Sri Lankan authorities informed of the threat on board the vessel in the form of a leaking container? Even if the captain of the vessel had failed in his duty to duly notify Sri Lankan authorities of the impending threat, why hadn't the shipping agent stationed at the Hazira port notified Sri Lankan authorities of the leaking container? Had the captain of the vessel informed the situation on board the vessel to the local shipping agent, did the agent fail to notify the harbour master of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority? If authorities of the Hazira port had notified the vessel on the risk of unloading the leaking container based on images forwarded by the vessel's captain, how were Sri Lankan authorities left in the dark of such a risk? Why did the subject minister involve himself in efforts to control the blaze?
එන මොහොතේ සිට මේ නැව
The vessel's company was aware of the leak even by the time it reached our waters. This vessel had reached Sri Lanka at around 4 or 5 p.m. on the 19th of May. They had informed them about the leak to their local agent through an email. It was about 11 or 12 p.m. when the vessel had reached the outer harbour. The Sri Lankan agent of the vessel's company had informed about it by that time. The captain of the vessel had been informed that they would contact the harbour master and get back to them. That is because they had observed smoke rising from the vessel. The minister in charge tried to douse the flames with water, assuming that it is a toy vessel. We are facing the repercussions of such activities.
සෙල්ලමට ගහපු ගිනි ගොඩක් නිවන්න යනවා ඔගේ වතුර ගහන වැඩේට නායකත්වය දීලා අපි දැන් නැව නිමලා තියෙන්නේ අපි ඔන්ලයින් ඉන්නවා කිය ගියපු එකෙන් වෙච්ච හානිය තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ.
This time they lit the biggest lantern in the country in line with the Vesak celebrations. They did not care about the impact it will have on our country. When this vessel entered our waters, a bright light was emitted from the vessel. Did they investigate that? Did they appoint any team to do so? Or did they call on experts to look into it? They did not do anything. They just brought the vessel into our waters. Even on the verge of the vessel's destruction, Minister Rohitha went into the control rooms and said that everything was under control. In the end, the vessel was destroyed. Only 7% of the chemicals on board the vessel has been mixed with the water. They don't have any interest to protect this country or to develop it. Their only interest is to fill their pockets during their tenure at the office and then leave as soon as possible.
Still in local news, President of the Information Technology Society of Sri Lanka, Rajiv Yasuru Kuruwitake, who was remanded yesterday, was released on a personal bail of 100,000 rupees today. The order was handed down by Colombo Chief Magistrate Puddika Sriragala.
The President of the Information Technology Society of Sri Lanka, Rajiv Yasuru Kuruwitake, was arrested on charges of disseminating false information on an attempted cyber attack on several government websites, including the Presidential Secretariat. When the case was taken up today, the magistrate questioned the investigation officers whether any form of evidence was available to prove that the suspect had accessed the website of the Presidential Secretariat or any other government website. The investigators then informed courts that sufficient evidence to support the charges have not been revealed yet. The magistrate then questioned the investigating officers on how such charges can be filed against the suspect under the Computer Crimes Act if no such evidence has been presented. The magistrate pointed out that although all citizens of the country have the right to freedom of speech, it should be used in a manner that does not interfere with the lives of others. The case is set to be taken up again on the 1st of July. The suspect's computer and mobile phone were forcibly taken into custody. A copy of the information was not given to the suspect. A list of the seized items was not issued. Those are the requirements of the law. In our country, it is not possible to arrest people as and when someone feels to do so. There is a law in Sri Lanka. That's why the name of this country is the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. It means that this country is for its citizens. Unfortunately, even if bail is granted, he will not be released without a PCR test. PCR tests are conducted only in the morning. Therefore, even though this suspect has been granted bail, he won't be able to go home. Although he has been granted bail, he has been forcibly remanded. It is unfair to treat the people of this country in such a manner.
බලහත්කාරයෙන් රිමාන්ඩ් වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේ ආකාරයෙන් රටේ ජනතාවට සැලකීම ඉතාමත්ම දුක්ඛිත තත්ත්වයක්.
Journalists Association for Rights has urged the government to refrain from impeding the rights of the citizens enshrined in the constitution of the country, including freedom of speech and expression. Issuing a statement, the organization called on the government to act responsibly to protect citizens' rights and to act in a manner that encourages social media users and journalists to engage in proper dissemination of information and expression of opinions. State Minister Susil Premajayantha has said that an unexpected departure and emergence of leaders can be witnessed in Sri Lanka's political sphere.
I don't have a stance on this. If it has to happen based on a person's fate, then no one can stop it. Leaders unexpectedly enter and resign in Sri Lankan politics. We have seen such incidents taking place in the past. We don't have to make predictions. He entered parliament after obtaining the second highest votes from the Hambantota district. He has taken oaths as a lawyer and has educational qualifications as well. He has a family background. It is a question of when this would happen. No one can say that he is not qualified.
නමුත් ඒ අවශ්‍ය සුදුසුකම් නැහැ කියලා ඉතින් කාටවත් කියන්න බෑ දැන්
බසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාගේ අඩුවක් තියෙනවා එතුමා තවත් ලංකාවට
නෑ එතුමා පෞද්ගලික කාරණයක් සඳහා විදේශගත වෙලා තිනවා එතුමාට ලැබෙන පළවෙනි අවස්ථාවේ ලංකාවට එවි
එයාපෝට් එක ඇරලා නේද
එතුමා එන නිසාම ඇරියා නෙමෙයි නේද එයාපෝට් එක කොහොමද වහනකොට කිව්වා සීමිත කාලයකට වහනවායි
එතුමා රට හැරගියා නෙමෙයි
නෑ
Former parliamentarian Buddhika Kurukularatna breathed his last today. He was 78 years of age at the time of his demise.
Buddhika Kurukularatna, who was born on the 19th of June 1943, is a proud product of Dharmasoka Vidyalaya, Ambalangoda. He was elected to the parliament representing the United National Party in 1989. The late Kurukularatna was an employee of the Capital Maharaja Group and was a prominent journalist while serving as a lawyer. Mr. Kurukularatna has contributed to multiple local newspapers, both Sinhala and English, out of which his column titled Ambalangodaya for the Sunday Lakbima newspaper is fondly remembered by the public. He has also written several books in both languages. The last rites of Buddhika Kurukularatna will be performed at the Borella Cemetery tomorrow.
Keeping you updated about the political situation in the country, journalists questioned MP Partli Champika Ranawaka on the current state of politics during a media briefing today.
It is said that there is a campaign to spread negative information on Sajith Premadasa carried out by your side and that you are trying to allow Ranil Wickremesinghe to become the opposition leader. What is the truth behind this?
අමූලික අසත්‍ය මේවා පතුරවන්නේ මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් පහුගිය කාලේ පුරාම
These are blatant lies. They are trying to destroy our character because we expose the dealings of a few media institutions with the LTTE. They are the ones carrying out this campaign. At a time when the United National Party had decided that Ranil Wickremesinghe must be made opposition leader, I was the one who signed the letter to appoint Sajith Premadasa to the role. We will remain undeterred by such moves. We will not sling mud in such a manner as well. If we want to criticize something, we will do so in a straightforward manner. We will raise our concerns at the appropriate occasion. We have never acted in such a manner. I don't know whether Ranil Wickremesinghe will enter parliament. I haven't contacted him since 2019. It is up to him to decide whether he wants to enter parliament.
එතුමා එනවා නම් ඒක එතුමාගේ කැමැත්ත.
ඒ ওই තරකෙත් එන්නේ ඔබතුමා නිකන් 아무තු වෙන සිහින දකින්නවා කියන කතාවත් උතන එනවා නිකන්.
මම සිහින දකින්නවා. මම සිහින දකින්නවා මේ රටේ පෞල්වාදයට උරුම වෙලා.
I have dreams and hopes. I dream of eliminating nepotism from politics and transform the political culture into one that comprises skilled individuals. We will back a social movement to eradicate the policy of nepotism and favoring henchmen. We hope to push the future generations to the highest positions in the country. That is what we are trying to do. We have to stop power from being transferred to one's child or grandchild.
ඒකාධිකාරය කැඩීම තමයි අපි මේ කරන්නේ. දරු මුරුන්ටත් යන මේ ක්‍රමේ නවත්තා.
ඒක සරිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයත් එක්ක ඉඳලා ඔබතුමාට ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන් වේද?
මෙහෙමයි. අපි ඒ අවස්ථානුකූලව ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී
In 2019, the best alternative that we had was Sajith Premadasa. We took our decision over that. Our future will be decided based on his future conduct in the Samagi Janabala Wege.
අනිත් කාරණා විශ්ින් ඉතිරි කාරණා අනාගතයේ තීරණය කරා.
ඒ කියන්නේ ඊළඟ පාර වෙනසක් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඒක මොනවා වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්.
ඒක මොකක්ද කියලා අපි ඒක මට කියන්නත් බෑ වෙන කාටවත් කියන්නත් බෑ.
කොහමද මේ ඇතුලේ දෙකට වීමක් නැහැනේ.
නෑ කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. ඒක මේ අර මාධ්‍යවල මේ
15 දෙනෙක් ගැන කියවෙනවා.
ඒක මේ මාධ්‍යවලින් පතුරවන කතා.
No, there is no such issue. Those are tales propagated by the media. There was another report stating that 19 government parliamentarians are going to join the opposition. It is also claimed that discussions are being held in temples to form parties. Such information is being spread through the media. We will not get involved in political conspiracies. We left Mahinda Rajapaksa's government after our proposals were rejected by his camp. We left his faction after taking up the matter with him. We did not get involved in backstabbing. It was done in an explicit fashion.
අපි මෙතන කටයුතු කරන්නේ තියුත්. ඒ කියන්නේ ඊළඟ ජනාධිපතිවරණයට සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයා මේවන්න ඔබතුමා එකසිතින් වැඩ කරනවා කියන කතාවනේ.
මෙහෙමයි ඊළඟ ජනාධිපතිවරණය තාම නැහැ. ඉතින් ඒකින්ද ඕක කතා කරලා වැඩක් නැහැ.
With that statement from Partli Champika Ranawaka, let me draw your attention to the economic situation in the country. The Sri Lanka Investor Forum has been happening in Sri Lanka for the past 2 days. President Secretary P.B. Jayasundara spoke about Sri Lanka's trade deficit at this event.
The country's present level of exports of around $10 billion is inadequate for at least 3 reasons. First, it is not diversified. Second, it depends on imports and less on domestic value addition. And last but not least, it is grossly inadequate to meet $20 billion imports. No economy of our scale can sustain $10 billion per annum trade deficit. The national plan to address this imbalance is to raise export earning to $15 billion by 2024 and to $20 billion by 2028 through a diversified industrial and agro-processing industrial activity.
A special panel discussion on the banking sector was also held at the same forum.
Ayubowan, Vanakkam, good morning.
The panel was moderated by Mr. Rajendra Tyagaraja, former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce.
With that, we wrap this edition of Primetime News on News First. But before we go, a reminder that the final rites of late parliamentarian Buddhika Kurukula Ratna will be held on Friday at the Morella Cemetery. I've been Satwan Hapwarati. Thank you very much for watching.